My spouse kicked me out after her closest friend claimed I tried to hit on her. 5 months on, the friend admitted she was envious. I presented divorce documents and she completely lost it. Never imagined I'd be posting something like this. Yet here I am, crashing at my sibling's house at 2 a.m., unable to rest, attempting to figure out how my world crumbled in less than a day. I'm 34, employed in digital security, and up until the day before, I believed my relationship was rock solid. My wife Jo is 32, a rehab specialist. We've been a couple for 9 years, wed for 6. No children so far. We intended to begin trying once her educational debts were under better control. Her best pal Madison has been in the picture from the start. Buddies from high school in Ohio remained tight through university, and when Madison relocated here 5 years back, she pretty much became a fixture in our home. I'm referring to several meals together weekly. Every Friday evening was ladies' night, non-stop messaging. Initially, I was fine with it. Madison had recently ended her marriage. Her former partner was unfaithful, and the entire ordeal wrecked her. I assumed Jo supporting her was the proper move. I even assisted her with relocating to a new apartment last year. In hindsight, there were indicators. Madison would give this expression when Jo pecked me farewell, tough to pinpoint, but certainly not joyful for us. Small remarks now and then like, "Must be great having a partner who really appears," or, "You're so fortunate, Jo, some of us lack that luck." I dismissed it as post-divorce resentment. Around 6 months ago, the three of us went out for a meal. Jo stepped to the restroom, and Madison inquired if I ever grew weary of acting the ideal spouse. I chuckled it away. She gazed at me a little too intently, and mentioned Jo discusses me non-stop, and it's truly draining. Once more, I thought single and resentful. Then the day before, it all detonated. Ordinary Tuesday, arrived home about 6. Jo was already there preparing the evening meal. She appeared distant, but I attributed it to a tough workday. We dined quietly, which was unusual. And then, as I'm placing dishes in the washer, she mentions Madison informed her about my actions. I hadn't a hint what she meant. She shot me this glare I'd never witnessed, just utter revulsion, and explained Madison visited her workplace that afternoon in tears. Per Madison, I'd advanced on her 2 weeks prior when Jo stayed late at the job. Madison alleged I messaged asking if she wished to drop by and view a film since I was unoccupied. Said she arrived assuming it was merely pals chilling. Then midway through the flick, I apparently placed my palm on her thigh and stated I'd always considered her appealing. Madison claimed she stiffened, shoved my palm off, departed right away. She avoided mentioning it to preserve our union, but I'd supposedly messaged her again the previous day, wanting to discuss the incident, and she could no longer stay silent. My gut sank. Nothing of that occurred. I informed Jo that Madison was fabricating, that I'd never messaged her, never asked her over. 0. I retrieved my device to display our chat record, and it was nearly blank. A couple group chats, perhaps 3 personal notes in the last year. All mundane, like notifying Jo I'm delayed. Jo refused to glance at my device. She stated Madison displayed her captures of messages I allegedly sent from an alternate number. I requested to view them. She said Madison was overly distraught to forward them, but she viewed them personally. I noted that was illogical. Why possess another number? But Jo argued I operate in digital security, so I could simply spoof a number or employ some program. I attempted all angles, explained I was home that evening competing online with my pal Liam. I could verify via chat records and match history. She claimed I might have acted post-gaming. I said okay. Examine the smart doorbell. It'll reveal no visitor. She said I likely erased the recording. Each justification I offered, she countered instantly. It seemed she'd predetermined my guilt, and no fact would sway her. I questioned why Madison would fabricate such a tale, and Jo merely yelled that Madison's her dearest friend and gains nothing from falsehoods. Then she began weeping, stating she initially defended me but Madison revealed the captures. Then she dialed Madison right then on loudspeaker. Madison was wailing, claiming she was deeply regretful. She never intended this outcome. She simply couldn't bear the remorse. I attempted to interject, and Madison uttered something like, "Please confess your actions, avoid complicating it for Jo." I declared she was deceiving, and she sobbed intensively, stating she anticipated I'd refute and portray her as unstable. Joe disconnected and instructed me to gather a suitcase and depart. I refused. This is my residence too. I won't exit over fabrications. She warned if I stayed, she'd summon authorities and claim I threatened her safety. That ultimatum shattered me. I seized some attire, my portable computer, dental brush, and exited. Lingered in my vehicle perhaps 20 minutes, blankly gazing. Then motored to my siblings' unit. My brother Ethan answered, viewed my expression, and drew me in sans-curie. I recounted the events. He was furious. He's encountered Madison at celebrations and relatives' gatherings, never cared for her. Always claimed she emitted odd signals, that she clung excessively to Joe. I deemed him overly suspicious, but perhaps he detected what I overlooked. Ethan advised securing a legal expert pronto, that bogus claims like this could ruin my existence. I couldn't rest that night. Repeatedly reviewed every exchange with Madison, seeking if I'd acted in a way twistable. Found zilch. Following morning, I rang Joe, direct to voicemail, messaged her, 0. Dispatched an extended electronic mail detailing all, pleading her to review proof. Quiet. I even contacted her mother hoping she might reason with Joe, but her mother was frigid. Stated Joe shared the occurrence and she was let down in me. I attempted clarification, and she interrupted claiming Joe wouldn't deceive and Madison lacks motive for invention. All had prejudged my culpability. That evening at Ethan's, I resolved. If Joe refused to trust me, if she'd accept Madison's account sans pondering deception potential, then perhaps this union wasn't as I perceived. Initial week was harsh. Ethan labored days, so I'd lounge on his sofa browsing my device, viewing past images of Joe and me. Kept believing she'd regain clarity, spot Madison's narrative flaws, ring, and regret. Device remained mute. I messaged her daily for initial 5 days, basic pleas for dialogue, stating I longed for her. Each ignored. Day 6, I motored by our residence and spotted Madison's vehicle in the drive at 11 a.m. Thursday. She'd essentially settled in. That's when I grasped this wasn't resolving. Madison appeared daily in my dwelling, likely bolstering her deceptions endlessly. Joe lacked room to reflect. Ethan convened me on day 7 and stated I must cease self-torment. Said I can't continue surveying the house, can't message into nothingness, I required self-protection. He provided his acquaintance's contact separation lawyer. I eyed that entry for 2 hours prior to dialing. Lawyer's title was Richard, perhaps mid-50s, managed countless separations. Convened at his firm next dawn. Displayed him all, the nearly vacant chat log with Madison, my online gaming records from that evening she alleged invitation, my smart doorbell profile indicating no motion. Richard heard, then uttered something memorable. He said even proving Madison's deceit, even if Joe ultimately grasps truth, I must query if I could ever rely on my spouse post this. That struck deeply, because he was accurate. Joe didn't merely trust Madison, she declined considering my perspective. Expelled me, severed contact, swayed her kin against me. Richard advised filing promptly. Detailed in our region a required 60-day hold post-filing before finalization. Extended if asset conflicts or contesting. He said advance it, submit docs, and if miraculously Joe reconsidered prior completion, we could withdraw the request. But minimally I'd be safeguarded. I endorsed the preliminary forms that day. Felt unreal, like observing another's existence collapse. Richard stated Joe would receive service in a week. Departed his firm and wandered downtown for hours. Wound up at this riverside park where Joe and I shared our initial outing 9 years prior. We purchased frozen treats and conversed for 5 hours non-stop. I recall thinking that evening I'd likely wed her eventually. Now I was endorsing separation forms because she trusted deceptions over me. Phoned my closest pal Liam that night. He's the one I gamed with the evening Madison alleged advancement, shared all and he was stunned. Proposed contacting Joe to verify my online presence entire evening. I said pointless. She wouldn't credit him either. Liam noted Madison always seemed strange to him. Recalled this holiday gathering 2 years back when she imbibed and was oddly affectionate with Joe all evening. I recalled that too. We all dismissed it then. Week 2. I began operating again. Couldn't remain at Ethan's indefinitely, so I searched rentals. Located a suitable one-bedroom roughly 20 minutes from office. Inked a 6-month agreement. Ethan aided shifting my belongings, which was minimal since most remained at the house. Acquired inexpensive furnishings, attempted to create home feel. It failed. Spot felt vacant and gloomy. I immersed in employment. Superior noted my distraction but avoided inquiries. Began lingering late, accepting additional tasks, anything to evade returning to that barren unit. Also commenced gym sessions each morning pre-work. Ethan recommended it, said it aided his prior split a few years ago. I hadn't exercised consistently since university, but I needed outlet for rage. Actually benefited. Something about hoisting weights renders other issues tolerable briefly. Week 3. Still 0 from Joe. The separation docs had been delivered. Richard phoned, stating Joe received them and reportedly panicked. Her mother rang his firm yelling about how I was deserting my spouse in her time of need. How could I submit for separation? Richard steadily clarified her offspring expelled me over bogus claims and rejected all communication. Her mother disconnected on him. Portion of me wished service would rouse Joe, force her to see my seriousness. Still nothing. Then something notable occurred. One of our shared acquaintances, a woman named Casey who labors with Joe at the facility, contacted me via social media. Said she was unaware of details but disbelieved I'd commit what Madison alleged. I inquired why, and she said Madison's behaved strangely recently, virtually residing at Joe's, becomes guarded when queried about me, and frankly, elements of her tale lack sense. Said several others at the facility doubted Madison's account too, but none wished to confront Joe as she was so vulnerable. That exchange sparked faint optimism that truth might surface eventually. But it altered nothing for me. I remained solitary in a bleak unit. Spouse still despised me. Madison still portraying injured party. Week 4. Ethan demanded I attempt a outing. Arranged with his partner's pal, woman named Ashley. She was pleasant, labored in promotion. We had beverages downtown. I strove to engage, but my mind wandered. Midway, she said, "I'm not past my former, correct?" I regretted, said I was amid separation and likely shouldn't date. She was understanding, wished fortune. Returned home, sensing greater isolation. By week 8, I began embracing this as my new normal. Joe wasn't returning. Separation progressed. Began planning future possibilities. Perhaps relocate cities. Fresh start. Emphasize profession. Pursue that lead role emerging. Journey, something Joe and I discussed but never pursued. Then week 10 arrived and all shifted. Joe's mother phoned me. Joe's mother phoning was least anticipated. Nearly ignored, but intrigue prevailed. Her tone trembled. Said she must disclose something and owed regret. Turns out Madison intoxicated at her home 3 days prior. Joe absent, late work. Madison began weeping about how difficult all was, how remorseful she felt. Joe's mother assumed she meant remorse for revealing accusation. Then Madison uttered something, pausing her. Something about loving Joe immensely and unable to endure me possessing her longer. Joe's mother queried meaning, and Madison fully collapsed. Admitted fabricating all, said she'd loved Joe since high school. Observing our joy was agony. Believed breaking us might make Joe notice her differently. Joe's mother was appalled, confronted her immediately, and Madison confessed everything. The phony captures, the deceptions, all. Used some tool to generate false message threads appearing from my number. Joe's mother regretted repeatedly on that call. Said she should have trusted me, should have probed more. I appreciated her informing but felt hollow. Yes, vindicated but harm inflicted. Told her she must inform Joe instantly. She said she'd attempted, but Joe refused hearing. Thought her mother merely shielded me from remorse. Disconnected and stared at wall. Portion wanted triumph, but mostly emptiness. 2 hours later, my device exploded with messages from Joe. Many. Avoided reading, powered off, and slept. Next dawn had 17 missed from Joe, and perhaps 30 messages. Finally reviewed, all begging variants to ring, stating regret. We must converse. No reply. Richard phoned that afternoon stating Joe's counsel contacted, inquiring if I'd meet for reconciliation talks. Instructed Richard to arrange but clarify solely for ending separation matters. Nothing more. He said he'd manage. Session set for Friday afternoon at our residence. Joe desired there, likely thought home would soften me. I consented, but insisted Richard accompany. Friday arrived, and I motored to house first in nearly 3 months. Joe's vehicle in drive, Madison's too. My gut lurched. Phoned Richard, informed Madison present. He said hold, he'd address. We entered together. Joe on sofa weeping, Madison behind with palm on Joe's shoulder. The nerve. Richard promptly stated Madison must exit or we depart. Joe appeared puzzled. Said Madison there to regret too. I nearly chuckled. Madison began speaking, but Richard halted. Said her attendance improper, and I desired none of her words. Madison flushed, glanced at Joe for support, but Joe remained still. Madison seized purse and headed door, but passing me muttered, I'd destroyed all. That's when Joe connected. Her expression shifted confusion to shock to revulsion, in moments. She rose and queried Madison's meaning. Madison halted, faced and visibly schemed retreat, too delayed. Joe approached and said her mother shared Madison's words about loving her. She disbelieved, but Madison's glare at me clarified. Madison wept, attempted seizing Joe's hands, said she acted for them, that I prevented Joe seeing their potential. Joe retreated as struck, instructed Madison depart. Madison declined, began ranting about loving Joe since 16, waited ages, ruined own union unable to cease Joe thoughts. Then Joe wed me and she endured us daily. Joe trembled, yelled Madison exit. Madison attempted embrace. Joe pushed and Madison tripped into table. She rose, makeup ruined, glared at us with venom before exiting. Door banged. Silence. Joe crumpled to sofa sobbing, glanced at me repeating regret. I stood firm, merely observed this woman still legally wife but stranger. Richard retrieved separation documents from case and placed on table. Joe spotted and wept intenser, pled not to proceed, said we could repair, she'd do all. I spoke at last, told her she expelled me from home, trusted another over me sans true proof, swayed family against me, ignored my pleas for hearing. She repeated sorry, terrible error, Madison manipulated. I eyed Richard and he affirmed. Faced Joe and said, hope she finds one she'll truly trust. Because not me and never again. Endorsed docs there on our table. Joe begged halt, said therapy possible, she'd compensate. I rose and approached door. She grasped arm, and I softly withdrew. Said farewell and exited. Heard her calling as I entered vehicle. Richard trailed in his. Motored to his firm and completed what possible that day. That was 3 months back. Separation concluded 2 weeks ago. I'm now dating Ashley, the woman Ethan introduced. Reconnected about a month ago and progressing well. She knows all, no judgment. Shifted to larger spot, secured that advancement at job, began journeying. Joe attempted contact few more times, but I blocked all channels. Ethan said she's in counseling, now addressing all. Madison reportedly returned to Ohio. I feel no sympathy for either. I'm truly content now, more than in that union if truthful. Sometimes the direst event proves the greatest. This was mine. What do you think about this story? Let me know in the comments, drop a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories.